Hey guys, it's BlackStarAura, and it is butt crack early yet again, Valentine's Day 2017. I'm still sick. I'm still recovering from my cold, but hopefully I sound a little bit better than I did when I was recording Layers of Fear in its entirety, including Inheritance. I'm putting this up as kind of an afterthought to the whole playthrough because I think I have a good idea of how the story of the games, you know, the right sequence of events, but I could be wrong. But anyway, here's my version of what I think happened in the story. Um, the artist was at the top of his game. The wife was at the top of her game with playing the piano, a concert pianist. They married, they fell in love, they married, and they eventually had a baby. After the baby, the wife started to decline because of postpartum depression, and after the baby was born, the artist also took some personal time off to, enjoy his new family and spend time with his new family and to support his wife through her postpartum depression. Things got out of hand after that because the artist, started taking solace in drinking because his career was on the decline for being out of the game for so long. And there was also, he started lashing out at his wife and also his child while she was growing up. They had a dog, and I don't know if the artist ended up killing the dog or the dog ran away, whatever. The dog was mistreated and not liked at all by the artist. Maybe the wife was indifferent, too busy in her own misery, and the child was afraid of the dog. At some point, there was a fire in a department store, and the wife was caught up in it. And she got a scar on her face and hands, but in the mind of the artist, she was ruined forever as his muse and also as his life partner because of her injuries, which may have been slight, but, enlarged in his mind because he was starting to go insane. The wife took out her frustration on her husband and also on the child. She was in a lot of pain, and she had self-esteem issues, obviously, because of the burn scars on her face. Things escalated to the point where, between the husband and wife, she was jealous of her old self still, capturing the attention of the husband because the husband was starting to display repetitive ass behavior, OCD like, I dare say. Always trying to get the perfect masterpiece, always trying to get his mojo back, and relying more and more on alcohol to steady his hand, as he says, in order to get his glory back. So, and it didn't work, he thought. But as we saw at the end of the main storyline, it was like a whole room full of perfect or near perfect things, finished canvases, that proves that it was all in his mind, that, that he was just completely foobar in his art, but it was really his psyche that was holding him back from regained success. Anyway, at some point there was a secondary fire or some accident that caused the painter to lose a leg, and he had a prosthetic leg, And at the same time, he started developing an obsession with rats. He thought that rats infested his house, and he employed several exterminators who didn't see any sign of rats in his house. And he saw the artist saw rats everywhere, in the kitchen, in the different rooms, running into the fire in that one study. And he fantasized about them eating through his leg, his prosthetic leg. And he was tormented by the idea of rats gnawing at his house, gnawing at his art, gnawing at his life. And the rats are probably a manifestation of his own internal guilt and suffering over the loss of his art, and also the from pushing away his wife and child in his insanity. So, a big question that remains, ambiguous is the theme of the body parts that mark the progression of each chapter. The vial of blood, the eyeball, the bone, the piece of skin, the severed finger. The severed finger is definitely a man's finger. So did he do that to himself? Did he maim himself in the name of his art? Any artist that you know will tell you, of any media, will tell you that doing art is literally putting yourself, your own blood, sweat, and tears into your project, whatever it may be. So it might be figurative. It could be all in his head that he made all of these sacrifices for his art, but it could be also very literal. He could have done that to himself. Assuming he did, how he did the whole vial of blood thing with siphoning off the blood with the tubing and stuff without needing a hospital visit is beyond me. He could have easily bled himself to death by doing that if it had been real, but I'm assuming it wasn't. Anyway, let's move on to inheritance. The daughter, all grown up, and as we find out in my ending, she had a child of her own, so she was at least, in her 30s or maybe even early 40s. We don't know, but she was all grown up. And she was tormented, of course, after living in that house for we don't know how long, until the social services took her away from her father, following the suicide of her mother and all that. What else? What else? What else? In my ending, she forgave her father and was able to walk away from the burning house, seemingly in control of her life, but as the melting of the photograph of the painting at the end suggests, that the insanity did carry over to the next generation, and more of the bullshit would continue. So it was a very bittersweet, sad ending. I went to TV Tropes earlier this afternoon to look. Earlier Monday the 13th afternoon, to get a clue as to what would have happened if I hadn't forgiven him. And spoilers, it suggests that she still sets fire to the house, but she gets, in her anger, she still sets fire to the house, but the burning rubble traps her inside and she perishes in the fire. So that was even more dark than what I already had. At least mine was at the beginning kind of uplifting. But yeah, you don't nobody gets a happy ending in Layers of Fear. Goddamn. Anyway, Yeah, one last note. I was saying at the end of the main playthrough, wondering if the wife had finally gotten her shit together and left him and all that other kind of stuff. Uh, it was clear by the end that she didn't. That she had knifed herself in the bathtub, and that was sad as fuck. The whole game was sad as fuck, but it was visually stunning, and I absolutely loved it. IGN, Metacritic and stuff. I don't know what the fuck they were smoking, for real. I mean, yeah, the game had some technical issues. It did rely a lot on jump scares, but it just overall it was a beautiful, beautiful, dark and but very beautiful game, and I loved it. I really loved it. I loved it to the point that I am going to, keep playing it, replaying it as many times as I need to in order to platinum the shit, because when I get it in my head, oh my god, I've got to platinum this. I will not stop until I've platinumed it. That's how it was with Heavy Rain. That's how it was with Until Dawn. That's how it was with uh, the other two that I haven't done LPs for, Grim Fandango Remastered and Day of the Tentacle Remastered, which I did off camera, and platinumed those. So this is going to be the fifth game I've ever platinumed. So, yeah, yeah, you won me over, Bloober Team. I'm sorry I called Layers of Fear a PT knockoff. I was angry at the time. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Hope you enjoyed. There has to be something I'm overlooking. Yeah, it turns out that I forgot some things in the last recording. There was a secondary fire because there was a note that I found from the lawyer of the artist, talking about how the wife flipped out and tried to burn the artist's paintings in a fit of rage. So we know there was a secondary fire, but I want to correct my earlier statement that about the artist losing his leg in the fire, because it's possible, judging by the amount of decorations, uh, military medals inside all of those drawers in the house, it's possible that he lost his leg in a war and returned to America a war hero. And that's probably how he lost his leg and needed a prosthetic. Um, the game is deliberately ambiguous as to what century or what decade it was in. I When I played the game, I talked as if it was Victorian times, because in the all the promotional material for the game, it said a Victorian house. So when I heard Victorian house, I assumed that it was Victorian times, and I was like, "Ooh, let me try this." But just because the house is Victorian doesn't mean that the, time is Victorian. So maybe, and the fact that there was a gramophone in the wife's room playing a song from 1922 suggests that we're in the 20th. We're in the 20th somewhere. And also the decor of the daughter's kitchen at the end of my ending of Inheritance, the forgiveness ending. It was very kitschy. It looked like, to me, 50s, 60s era home decor. So, maybe. Yeah, I had to adjust my posture. I'm still sick, y'all. This is literally like an hour after the last recording, so yeah. What else did I want to say? I can't even remember. Uh, Oh, the wheelchair belonged to the wife. She was injured far more than just superficial face and hand scarring. She was also, I don't want to say crippled, but she needed a wheelchair to get around. And it wasn't just the presence of the wheelchair in the hallways in the main game, also, and in Inheritance. It was also a child's drawing in Inheritance by the daughter. Her name may or may not be Regina because it was spelled in blocks in the end room in Inheritance with the apology painting. Um, Regina, I'll just call her Regina. Regina did a drawing at some point where it had the three of them saying, "It's okay, mommy, we can all be broken together." And it was like a awe type of thing, exploring one of those rooms that I missed in the original Inheritance playthrough, but I picked up later on redos. And yeah, that was pretty much it. The wife definitely did commit suicide because those ramifications were obvious in the playthrough for Inheritance. And last but certainly not least, I want to thank you guys for watching. If you watched, if you made it this far, just thank you for tuning into that because this was very important for me to put up eventually as a let's play because I was really drawn to the game, really drawn to it, and I was scared to death, but eventually I did it.